Good evening, folks, and a very, very, very warm welcome to you all tonight. It is quite warm out there. Spring is definitely in the air, and when we start talking about spring, we talk about, well, the end of the winter football season. For some, it's a great chance to have a bit of a break, but for others, like myself, it's a case of, oh, well, let's start planning now for next season. My name's Tonchi Prusak. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you here tonight. It is the Game of Two Halves podcast powered by the Geelong Region Soccer Show and proudly brought to you by our major sponsor, the Gordon. A big shout out to everyone at the Gordon. It's a fantastic institution here in Geelong, and certainly we are very, very grateful that they are supporting the Game of Two Halves podcast. Folks, it is episode 118. It's our 5th season and our 18th episode this year. Boy, have we got a jam-packed episode for you tonight. Joining us on the show a little later on, we've got Brett King. He's the president of Surf Coast Football Club. There's a lot happening down at Hume Reserve, and he'll be telling us all about it. During the week, it was announced that Surf Coast are looking at fielding a team in the Women's State League competition, or returning, I should say, to the Women's State League competition after a hiatus of several years. They're also gearing up for what is possibly the biggest game in the club's history this Saturday in the final round of the State 4 men's competition. We also will be speaking to CASIAN ANGHEL. He's CORIO Soccer Club's Romanian import, and he'll be joining us that little bit later on in the show to talk about an equally important game for CORIO. They are battling and fighting for survival in State League 1. They had a little bit of a hiccup on the weekend, but this weekend coming, all roads lead to Hume Reserve in Bell Park for what is going to be a massive, massive game. The equation is simple. CORIO needs to win this game to stay alive in the State League 1 competition. Apart from that, we've also got massive breaking news as well. Just in the last hour, we've found out Geelong has got a new national team representative. The CommBank Young Matildas head coach, Leah Blaney, today named a 28-player squad for a 6-day training camp commencing today in Sydney. And it's the preparation of the Australian Young Matildas for the AFC Under-20 Women's Asian Cup in Uzbekistan next year. And we said that there is a Geelong flavour there. Yes, Natalie Pichuk, whom we had on the show, on this very, very show, just a couple of weeks ago. She has been named in the 28-player squad. So congratulations, Natalie. It is great to see that this Geelong region has now got another national team representative. And with the Women's World Cup finishing yesterday, it's even better now that one of those representatives is a Geelong person, and hopefully she will be following in the footsteps of, well, another Geelong person at the moment. We'll claim her as ours, Kyra Cooney-Cross, of course, who is now a household name in this country thanks to the recently completed Women's World Cup. huge news story there, and that is great to see Geelong football certainly getting on the national stage in some way, shape, or form. Folks, we want to have your input in today's show, so be active in the chat section. Pop a comment down. Have you played with Natalie? Have you played against Natalie? What were your impressions of her? Wish her all the very, very best. I'm sure her family will be watching this show, and certainly if not live, they will be watching replays of it. And if you're from Surf Coast, if you're from CORIO, let us know. But also, if you're from any of the other clubs, who would you love to see in weeks coming up? We'll have plenty of opportunity to do a full season analysis of 2024. But there's still a lot of football left, or at least this weekend as far as the state leagues. And there's a fair bit happening in the local leagues as well. So, folks, strap yourself in. We've got a massive show coming up your way, and it all starts off straight after this short break with the new weekend news roundup.
Your future is in your hands. There is a whole world waiting for you, and your choices determine how you will impact it. At the Gordon, we recognise this. That's why we champion hands-on learning. Get your hands dirty. Grab what's in front of you. Learn by doing. Turn your passion, your ideas, and mould them into your creations. You'll be supported the entire way. You'll grow your skills in small classes, guided by teachers who are industry experts. You'll learn in state-of-the-art facilities or out in a real-world workplace setting. Your hands-on experience will increase your understanding and put you ahead of your university peers. You'll graduate work-ready, and you'll graduate sooner, with a huge range of qualifications to choose from and support services to enable your success. Now is the time to continue your learning journey. At the Gordon, your future is in your hands.
Welcome back to the Game of Two Halves podcast, and that little news jingle, it's quite loud, isn't it? It catches you off guard. That certainly is the case here. Let's turn our attention to what happened on the weekend. And even though there were no State League Women's or VPLW games played because of the catch-up round, there certainly was a lot of action on the field happening with the men's NPL, State Leagues, and certainly the local league competition. So let's get straight into it. Let's turn our attention to the highest league in the state, the NPL Victoria competition. Unfortunately, next year there will be no Geelong team in the elite division, the NPL Victoria division, after North Geelong was unfortunately relegated on the weekend. I had the privilege of commentating this game, and let me tell you, folks, right up until the 80th minute, with news filtering in from other grounds, with Moreland City suffering a 5-0 loss at the hands of Oakley Cannons, Bentley Greens going down to Avondale, the premiers, 2-1. All North Geelong had to do was score one goal and defend like their life depended on it, which it did, and they would have escaped the relegation zone. Unfortunately, it wasn't the case, and they conceded a goal in the 82nd minute, and then 3 minutes later, a second goal. First goal by Alan Webb, second by Ali Suleimani. And that put paid to any hopes North Geelong had of survival in the NPL Victoria competition. To further rub salt into the wounds, unfortunately, Ryan Opperman, late in the game in the last 10 minutes, was actually carried off, and initially it was suspected he may have done some serious damage to his knee, but the North Geelong captain advises me earlier today that it was actually just a hyperextension, which happened right in the middle of the Elco Park pitch, a player nowhere in sight. In fact, he turned to counter-attack, if you like, and who knows if it hadn't happened, who knows, because North Geelong was in a good position to launch a counter-attack. But thankfully, it was only a hyperextended knee. and that looks like it's not as serious as initially thought. Now, the good news in regard to that is that obviously Opperman isn't as injured as badly as we thought it might be. But the other good news is that he will be appearing on next week's show. He was looking forward to coming on tonight, despite all the doom and gloom that's happened at Alco Park over the last 48 hours. But nonetheless, he will be on the show next week to talk about the season that was, in some would say, a forgettable season. But we've got to remember there was about a dozen youngsters, majority of them teenagers, all blooded at some time or another, all homegrown kids. And that certainly augurs well for the Warriors. Orion will be on next week to talk to us about next year's plans as well, and definitely the off season. So a lot happening in that space. But unfortunately, next year, North Geelong Warriors will be playing in NPL 2. What a division that is going to be, with the likes of Caroline Springs, Bentley Greens, Preston Lions, as well as all three A-League clubs and their respective academy sides, Melbourne City, Melbourne Victory, Western United. It is going to be a very, very exciting and a very tough league, that's for sure. Another club, unfortunately, that has got relegated, and they were, I guess, assured of that relegation, guaranteed of that relegation last week, was Geelong's other NPL team, Geelong Soccer Club, and they got relegated from NPL 3, and they will be in State League 1 next year. Now, if CORIO can manage to survive, well, next year we'll see a CORIO versus Geelong local derby in the in State League 1. But there you have it, folks. At the end of the 22 rounds, Geelong finished in second last position. They did go out on a high. They celebrated with a win against Beaumaris on Saturday at Stead Park. So at least it was a good way to finish things. CORIO, they're going to be the topic of conversation of tonight's show. And we'll be speaking to their Romanian import, CASIAN ANGHEL, who's certainly made a big impact down at Hume Reserve since debuting in mid-June this year. So he was a mid-season signing. But on the weekend, well, who would have predicted this? Who would have said that this was going to happen? And if we've got any of the CORIO fans, we've got Santino, Mamone, Joey G, Vesko Bigovic, all of these folks that are tuning in tonight, tell us what happened on the weekend in your eyes. If you happen to be at the game as well, let us know. But CORIO travelled to Keilor Park Recreational Reserve and came home with at the hands of, on the receiving end of a 5-0 drubbing at the hands of the bottom side, Keilor Park. A win against Keilor Park would have had them safely out of the relegation zone. And in fact, they probably would have been as high as 7th spot. So they certainly would have been safe. Now they're just on equal points as Whittlesea Rangers, although a far superior goal difference. And they're only a point ahead of Keilor Park. On Saturday at 3 p.m. at Hume Reserve, CORIO takes on Whittlesea United. Whittlesea United, I think, got smashed by FC Strathmore 7-5 or 5-2 or something like that. So they're certainly not in a good position, I guess, or they're certainly not in good form. But hopefully for the Geelong region, CORIO can survive, and we get to see that big CORIO versus Geelong derby in State 1 next season. But that's what's happening at the moment in State 1. So it's a big game, this CORIO, folks. If your team's not playing, or if their season has finished, get down to CORIO and let's have a big crowd there for Ivan Biskin's men. But as we said, a little bit later on in the show, approximately 8:45, we'll be speaking to CASIAN ANGHEL, the Romanian import, who's got a very, very interesting CV, that's for sure. Moving on to State League 2. Well, last week we had Lynn McCluskey from Geelong Rangers talking about the Day for Sophia event, and from all accounts, it was a massive success. Well, certainly the senior men's ensured that it was a massive success and a massive celebration. They defeated Hoppers Crossing 3-1 in the Big British Derby, but more importantly, the victory now enabled Geelong Rangers to leapfrog Hoppers Crossing out of the relegation zone, and they now find themselves in 10th spot. Now, the situation is still very, very delicate, very precarious, because Geelong Rangers, they defeated Hoppers 3-1, but they're only 1 point ahead of Hoppers Crossing at the moment. So as we can see right there, this is going to be, a ding-dong battle right to the end, a huge game in the last round. Rangers travel to Hume United. Now, Hume United are in 8th spot. So this is a crucial game for Rangers. Not so much for Hume United. It's almost a dead rubber for them. In fact, it basically is. There's no way that they can get anywhere. So hopefully that means that they won't be as motivated as what the Rangers are. So the Rangers really, really need this win on the road. In the other game that's going to be a crucial battle for survival, Altona North 9th host 11th placed Hoppers Crossing. And both those teams, in a way, cannot afford to lose this game. If Hoppers Crossing wins, they will leapfrog possibly Geelong Rangers and Altona North. That's where then goal difference starts to play a major hand in all of this. If Altona North wins, well, they're safe. If they draw, they're safe. Hoppers Crossing in that event would be the team that would possibly get relegated. But if Hoppers Crossing draws, Geelong Rangers loses, because Geelong Rangers have got that poorer goal difference, it effectively means then the Rangers would get relegated. So the Geelong Rangers have got no other choice but to go up to Laura Douglas Reserve on Saturday and fight for a win. And that is going to be, the make or break of it. Now, we'll take a look at the men's state 4 and the men's state 5 shortly, but after a break. But before we do take a break, let's just turn our attention to the Women's Victorian Premier League. Geelong Galaxy, they've only got one more game to go. So at the moment, they're in 4th spot. They could drop down to 5th, depending on how Casey Comets go this weekend. Geelong Galaxy this weekend have got a bye. And then the following week, they will be coming up against Eltham Redbacks away. So that's on Sunday, September the 3rd. So there's only one more game left for Geelong Galaxy, although for the rest of the VPLW, there will be 2 games. In Women's State League 1, this is one of those divisions that's always very, very interesting for us, as there are 3 Geelong clubs there. We've got 2 more games to go. Look, Brunswick Zebras, mathematically, they could still overtake the Rangers. They've got an inferior goal difference compared to the Rangers, but if they were to win this weekend and Rangers were to lose, then it could become a really big situation. Guess what? These 2 teams meet this week at Hume Reserve. So on Sunday, an equally important game for the Rangers. So if your team's not playing and you want to support a local side in their quest to avoid relegation, this Sunday up at Hume Reserve, Geelong Rangers taking on Brunswick Zebras. I think that game is at 3 p.m. Correct me if I'm wrong, anyone in the comments section. Lara United, they're in 5th spot. They can't really move anywhere apart from that mid-table position. North Geelong, they're in 3rd at the moment. They could be toppled by Clifton Hill for that 3rd position. And mathematically, the same thing could happen if Lara United were to score some big wins in their last 2 games. But North Geelong Warriors, they host Mill Park this week, while Lara United host Caroline Springs George Cross. All those games are on Sunday. So there's a lot of football happening this weekend. Folks, we're going to take a short break, a very short break. When we do return, we will be looking at the men's state 4 and the men's state 5, as well as the local grades as well, because there's a lot happening there as well. So, folks, I need to take a breath. I've been talking now for 20 minutes solidly. You take a quick break, and we'll be back very, very shortly. Don't go away.
Hi, I'm Joe Gergich.
And I'm Helena Fentella.
And welcome to our family here at Harcourts.
Welcome back to the Game of Two Halves podcast. Yes, Harcourt's North Geelong, a great advertising sponsor of this show, and we thank them for their support. On the weekend, some big news with regards to Harcourt's North Geelong, by the way. At the Harcourt's Victoria Quarterly Awards last week, the Harcourt's North Geelong crew took out several awards, in fact. Property Management Gold Revenue Award. Shane King took out the Bronze Sales Award, while Joe Gurgic took out the Gold Sales Award. Bronze Sales Award for Shane, gold for Joe. Joe Gurgic also took out the second Top Exclusive Lister Award, as well as third Top Sales Units Award. So well done to young Joseph Gurgic there, and Sales Office Bronze Award. So a big congratulations to Harcourt's North Geelong. And I'll tell you what, if you're in the northern suburbs and you need to either buy a house, sell a house, or a rental as well, they are the team to see fantastic work there. And if they're winning all those awards, I tell you what, they must be pretty damn good, that's for sure. So congratulations to them. Alrighty, let's move back onto the state competition. Let's turn our attention to the State League 4 competition. Now, we'll be talking to our first guest a little later on tonight, the Surf Coast president, Brett King, about this, but have a look at that, folks. Now, if ever there was a reason or an advertisement for having promotion and relegation for soccer in this country, for football in this country, take a look at what is happening, the excitement leading into the final day of the season. Have a look both at the top and at the bottom. Now, I'm going to have a rant here. I'm going to really have a rant. I think we could have the greatest sport. We know we could have the greatest sport in this country, but for far too long, within our sport, and the leaders that are within our sport are more obsessed with worrying what the AFL is doing, what the NRL is doing in the northern states, what the mainstream media, who will forever be anti our sport, are thinking of us. And most importantly, I think looking at what the politicians are doing. There's an old phrase, you're kind of snuggling up to the politicians and you're happy to get just a small handful of dollars. Well, in this city, it's the other way around. The politicians snuggle up to the Geelong Footy Club because they know they're so big and so powerful. Well, when we're combined, when we're a unit, we can be that. And here in Geelong, I think what we need to do is be a lot more united off the field. On the field, yes, go for your life and have rivalry, have white line fever bordering on hatred. Fine. Off the field, we as a movement, we as a family, we as a community need to stick together, because I tell you what, if there's 5,500, 6,000 people playing the game here, add another 2-3 times that, their parents, their brothers, their sisters, their sponsors, their whatever, all of a sudden you've got 15 to 20,000 people, and that is a pretty strong movement. And I think we need to start flexing our muscle. But anyway, this promotion and relegation, I digress, is why this sport could become unbelievably exciting. Anyway, at least in the state leagues, we've got this. And have a look at that. The second place team in State 4 will qualify for a promotion playoff against the second place team in State League 4 North. And the winner of that will then play the third place team in State League 3 Northwest. Now, Surf Coast are just 1 point behind Laverton. Should Laverton stumble in their last game of the season, I tell you what, and Surf Coast are able to win here, it is going to be incredibly amazing. So Surf Coast, they come up against Melbourne City in the last game of the season away from home. Laverton are at home to Moonee Ponds United. Moonee Ponds United don't have much to play for. The Moonee Valley Knights, who are on the same amount of points as our Surf Coast, but a far inferior goal difference, they come up against Keilor Wolves, who held Laverton on the weekend to a 0-0 draw. So that could be a very tricky game. At worst, Surf Coast needs to win on the weekend against Melbourne City, and they're assured of a second place finish. At best, Laverton stumbles and draws or loses to Moonee Ponds United at home, which is a tough task, and Surf Coast wins. Surf Coast are champions automatically into next year's Division 3 Northwest. Barwon Soccer Club on the weekend, they came up against Moonee Ponds United and drew with them. So certainly maybe Ash Dafter, the Surf Coast coach, will be giving Dale Harris a bit of a ring during the week and asking for some tips, that's for sure. Surf Coast defeated Spring Hills 6-2, another convincing win by the Coasters. And Bell Park defeated lowly Truganina 6-3. So almost a clean sweep of the Geelong clubs in State League 4. This week, Bell Park hosting Gisborne at home. So the final game of the season up at the Bell Park Sports Club. As we said, Melbourne City are hosting Surf Coast. Now, that's not Melbourne City, the A-League Melbourne City. That's the, I think the Argentinian or something like that. They play their games in Spotswood at Edwards Reserve. So I'm sure there'll be a big travelling contingent of Surf Coast fans heading up the highway. And Barwon finished their season off with a game against Spring Hills at home at Grovedale Reserve. All these games kick off at 3 p.m. The last of the state leagues, Men's State League 5. We'll take a look at that. Over the weekend, Deakin University defeated Ballarat 3-1. Lara United travelled to Shell Road Reserve in Ocean Grove, where they took on and defeated Surfside Waves 4-0. And this week, Lara United at home to the champions, Balmoral FC. Surfside Waves hosting Deakin University in a Geelong derby at Shell Road Reserve. But none of those teams will either get affected in any way as far as their ladder positions go. We turn our attention now to the local competition. And first of all, let's have a look at the local men's league. So there we have the standings after 16 rounds. We had Bell Park defeated Surf Coast 4-0. Breakwater Eagles a massive 12-1 win over Barwon Heads. And Armstrong United defeated Barwon Blue 1-0. So a great result there by Armstrong United, who now jump into the top 4. We don't know what the score of the Geelong Rangers FC Leopold game was. So that was played, but there is no result there, unfortunately. We've got 2 rounds to go of the local competition. Let's have a look at this week's games. A big game coming up on Friday night at the Bell Park Sports Club under lights, 6:30 p.m. kickoff. Bell Park hosts Armstrong United. So Armstrong United, the Pelicans, they'll be looking for a mad late season dash up the ladder. They'll certainly be wanting to keep their position in the top 4 cemented. So that's going to be a good game. Another good game will be Surf Coast hosting Barwon White, though, and Surf Coast need a win after last week's effort. That game is on Sunday at 3 p.m. Barwon Heads hosting Geelong Rangers in the Battle of the Cellar Dwellers. That's on Sunday, also 3 p.m. up at Barwon Heads Village Park. And then Barwon Blue hosts Breakwater Eagles at Grovedale Reserve, also this Sunday at 3 p.m. We now turn our attention to the women's competition. 7 rounds played. And the big result of this weekend's game was that Bell Park defeated the toppers Deakin Ducks 2-0, and inflicting their very, very first loss of the Division 1 season since the split mid-season. Armstrong United held Drysdale Soccer Club to a 1-1 draw at the Armstrong Creek Sporting Oval. Surf Coast defeated Barwon 1-0 to draw into equal top spot, just by virtue of a slightly inferior goal difference, or slightly, it's -6, I guess, if you like. They occupy second spot. And we will be talking to Brett King, the Surf Coast president, about the women's team and some exciting developments in the pipeline with regards to the women's team at Surf Coast very shortly. Lara United took on Surfside Waves. We don't have a result for that game. We've got round 8 fixtures this weekend. All the games are on Saturday. We've got an early game at Deakin University. That's at 11. Deakin Ducks taking on Armstrong United. At Banya Warrior Reserve at 1 p.m, Surf Coast hosts Drysdale Soccer Club. At Lara Recreation Reserve, pitch 1 on Saturday at 1 p.m. We've got Lara United taking on Barwon Soccer Club. And then we've got Bell Park hosting Surfside Waves at 5 p.m. on Saturday. So that will be after the men's game, the final game of the season for the men. The Bell Park women will certainly be looking to get a win in the penultimate round of the season. That's for sure. That's pretty much it for the weekend roundup. A lot happening, as we said. Even though there was no State League Women's and VPLW Women's, there was still lots and lots of action happening this weekend. Folks, we're going to take a very, very short break. When we do return, it will be time for our first guest, and we'll be speaking to the Surf Coast president, Surf Coast Football Club president, Brett King, immediately after this. Lots to talk about with regards to the Coasters. There's a bit of euphoria down at Banyulwarri Reserve with the performance of both their senior men and their senior women's, but also with the new club rooms unveiled this year, it's added a whole new dimension to the Torquay North Club. We'll find out more about that straight after the break, folks. Don't go away.
Our name is derived from the Greek prefix macro, large. From the day we were born, this has been a promise for the future. We have grown through dedication, sweat, self-denial, faithful to our mission of being on the side of those who put themselves on the line. Through our name, we celebrate the greatness of those who believe there are no obstacles higher than their dreams. The courage to get back up after falling. The obstinacy of believing until the end. These are the values embedded in our logo. The Macron Hero. It's a celebration of sacrifice and tenacity. Up until your personal victory, until your arms are in the sky. Become your own hero.
Welcome back to the Game of Two Halves podcast. It indeed is an action-packed show tonight. And speaking of Macron, if you'd like to... Oopsie daisy. Speaking of Macron, if you're thinking of getting a kit this made out for the futsal season, the upcoming futsal season, get in touch with Macron and they'll do you a very, very good deal. Now, with speaking of futsal, next week's show we will have a very, very special guest. We already mentioned in the news desk that we will have Ryan Opperman, the captain of the North Geelong Warriors, on next week's show. But we'll also have Dermot Tebb coming on. He's the futsal Geelong director, and he will be manager. He will be coming on the show to talk about the upcoming futsal season as well. So we'll be having him and possibly his assistant, his director of futsal Ballarat and futsal Geelong, Andrew Burgess, as well. So those two will be coming on the show next week to talk about the plans for the upcoming summer futsal season. It's going to be massive. It's going to be huge. And, well, you'll want to tune into next week's show to find out all about the details with regards to that. And also there'll be, I think, the latest news with regards to the possible creation of a Geelong Futsal Academy as well. So for the talented, really talented players in the region is going to be a very, very exciting pathway. But in the meantime, let's talk about what's going to be happening this weekend. And it is going to be a climactic end to the State League men's season, and with the State League women's season, still 2 more rounds to go, and including the local league season as well. There's still a lot of football left in 2023, but it's an absolute pleasure to welcome to the show the president of the Surf Coast Football Club, Brett King. Brett, good evening and welcome to the show.
Tanchi, thanks very much. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's our absolute pleasure having you here on the show. But let's first of all talk about the men's competition, the senior men's. Well, what a year it has been for Ash Stafter's men. Yeah, look, we'll bring that ladder up again. But obviously, table topping, scored 90 goals, almost 100 goals in a season. That is amazing. That is incredible. But Ash, first year coach at Surf Coast, he's done very well, but he's certainly been helped by some absolute class recruits, one of them being John Pikett, the former NPL2 player with North Geelong Warriors, who's kicked something like 150 goals, I think, this year. He's been an absolute revelation. But, mate, obviously the on-field success has had a flow-on effect on everyone at the club. There must be a real euphoria at the moment at the club.
Yeah, Tonchi, look, thanks for the introduction. And I think it's a great question. And I guess to focus on probably the euphoria around the club is a good thing as opposed to the on-field performance, which is good. The off-field parts around that are amazing. The vibe around the club's fantastic. Obviously, as you alluded to in previous commentary, we've got some new club rooms, which we might talk about a bit later, and that's really creating a great facility for us to use.
Yeah.
By playing a good bit of football, by a number of other initiatives we put in place, means that we're getting some great numbers of people to the game, getting a really good connection of those people to our teams, and then getting a great connection between our different teams. So, yeah, the atmosphere in the club is fantastic, and probably speak about this as well. But the Matildas feeding into that at the perfect time of the year really has been a godsend for us and for, I think, football in the region and football in the country, to be honest. So, yeah, the atmosphere couldn't be any better, to be honest.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the Matildas, look. First of all, let's not jump from one to the other. We'll talk about the men's, then we'll talk about the women's and what's happening there, and then we'll talk about the club rooms and the effect of the Matildas. But let's back to this senior men's. Is there anything being planned? It's a shame that the game is being played away from home and not at home. Otherwise, it would be a massive bumper crowd. But is the club planning anything, a bus or anything like that, or organised transport to Edwards Reserve on Saturday?
Look, Tonchi, we probably don't see it as being the game of the season from our perspective, I guess.
Oh, we're trying to pump it up. Yeah.
It's no doubt it's a very important game for us, I guess, if we're looking at promotion, which has certainly been part of it. When you speak about Ash coming on to coaching the club at the start of the season, we had a 2 or 3 year vision for where we're going. And from our point of view, we're certainly well ahead of the curve of where we were trying to get to.
Yeah.
This game, look, very important. Obviously, we can't go anywhere if we don't win the game. And then getting, more points from Laverton be one thing, but then just winning the game and getting into a playoff, if that's where we get to, would be fantastic for the club. So, nothing ultra special, I guess, for us. It's just another game for now, and ultimately we've still got, potentially up to 3 games until we're going to get promotion. We'd have to win all 3 of them. So there's still a bit of water to go under the bridge before we're doing backflips a little bit, to be honest.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Let's turn our attention now to the ladies, to the women's competition. So if we have a look at the local division, they're doing very well. And look, that's to be expected. Mark Wyeth, the coach there, he's been there for a while, and he's done such a good job. We had him, I think he was in the first episode of the year this year, and he really showed in that interview that he was, really serious about, continuing the good work that had saw the team do so well last year. But it's much of a muchness at the moment, as we can see. Surf Coast are drawing on the same amount of points as the old rivals, Deakin Ducks. And what's the latest in the women's kind of area, if you like?
Yeah, so I might just start with our performance this year. Obviously, our performance this year is solid. We're obviously sitting, let's say, equal first, but sitting second on the ladder. The team's playing good football. I guess this season's probably a little bit different than maybe last year in that we've had to go, with a few injuries and, a few other unavailabilities, we've had to sort of blood a few junior players as well to our team. So that's been probably, this season in our current ladder position is a real testament to Mark and the girls in that they're playing some good football. We're getting some great mileage, some miles in the legs of some younger players. They're playing good football and they're really adding to the team. And that's the important part. I think that from a squad point of view, there's a really great developmental part of all of that. And, it's good to see the on-field performance be solid and they're playing some good football. And that probably then gets us onto thinking about sort of what the future holds for us. And so, from a women's point of view, not necessarily related to, the winning last season or to the fact we're doing well this season, but, as maybe alluded to, and as was covered, thankfully by yourself in the press today, we've put some calls out to look at some expressions of interest of where we might go from a women's football point of view and whether that leads us to state football or not. We definitely want to carry out any comment we have, and as per the rules, but we're extremely passionate about the local competition. For everything we would do from a metro point of view, Melbourne would always have a Geelong presence left behind, and that's really important for us. I think that we've got a really strong girls presence coming through, and it's important that they've got some local football to look forward to, and that ideally what we want to do is just have pathways so that the girls coming through have got a local competition to play in, which we've sort of historically done well in, that we want to keep doing well in,
Yep.
and potentially have the option to play some state football if that's where we get to. And we've put out an expression of interest, really just to garner the market of sorts, or the playing market, both for our current players, but also those players that have played with us in the past that might have moved on to something else, or others in the around the region that that might have heard that we're doing some good things that might want to look at talking to us. And that's just where we sit at the moment.
Yep.
Is that expression of interest, and that's been great. It's got some really good conversations going for us, both about present players and also some past players. So yeah, it's a really good vibe, and it's a good thing for us to be talking about, sort of where the future might take us.
Yeah, well, we've seen in previous years, North Geelong and Geelong Rangers have done exactly that. They've formed mainly a very strong local league contingent and built their juniors up at the same time. And then they've moved to the state competition. And in both cases, they've been fast-tracked by Football Victoria, because I guess in the women's game, it's not as established as the men's game. And there's always these little gaps. And both those clubs have managed to kind of, I won't say utilise those gaps, but they've managed to get themselves, fast-tracked into State League One, and we've seen that happen. They're doing very well. In fact, if I do put up the ladder there, North Geelong, who are a little bit more established than the other two teams in that division, they've been now two years in Victorian State League One. Remember, this is only 2 tiers below NPLW in this in this state. But Geelong Rangers, who were last year playing in State 3, and this year have found it a little bit difficult in State 1, but nonetheless, they're still managing to survive. So well done to all the Geelong clubs. Now, apart from that,
if I might just jump in, I guess from our point of view, it's important that we've got a real goal and a reason to what we're doing. We don't just want to play state football for the sake of playing state football. And so that's why we're really keen. Whether it's next year, it certainly could be. Whether it's the year after, that may be the case. But the important part for us is probably just asking the players that could play for us what support and guidance they need from us. What do we need to do with regard to travel and logistics? Do we need to look at club and community buses? What do we do with coaching and training nights? What do we do with regard to trying to really attract and retain good footballers and play some good, exciting football? And then really, as I said, then have a pathway for our strong junior girls that are coming through to then have something, slightly stronger to aspire to if that's where they think their football journey is going to. So, yeah, it's a bit of a voyage of discovery, and that could mean anything depending on the feedback that comes back to us. But at the moment, it sounds really positive.
Mate, I'm really heartened when I hear that kind of conversation, that there's clubs that have really got a strategic plan about and direction of where they want to go. And look, we haven't even finished our season now, and a lot of clubs are starting to plan next year, because that's just how it has to happen. If you want to be ahead of the pack, you really have to do that. But the girls as well, there's a lot of talented teams, a lot of good performing teams, but there's also a lot of players that are just starting their journey in football now. Which brings me to the next question, I guess, the Matildas. The success of the Matildas and Kyra Cross, whose family lives down Torquay way and has been involved with Surf Coast in the past. How's that? Are you starting to already field? Is the club starting to already field inquiries about kids that are particularly interested in taking up football? Are they impatient and wanting to do that now, or are they happy to sort of start looking for next year? Or it's kind of bad timing, isn't it? Unfortunately, it would have been good if this is maybe March or February of this year. But how's your experience with what's happened over the last couple of weeks?
Oh, look, so maybe cover the second question first. Maybe the experience has been amazing around our club. Obviously, having our club rooms as they are, and support from the council. So obviously, we're down in Surf Coast Shire Council, and they've been really supportive of us with facilities being made available, both our club rooms, but more so our overflow facilities we use with them. So by making them available has been great. But the support we've had of people wanting to come and watch the Matildas has been amazing. We've probably got capacity of 300 people across 2 rooms, and we would have filled that on a couple of occasions, and the atmosphere was amazing. People getting behind it, supporting it, decorating the rooms, and it's been a phenomenal sort of feeling. And that's probably a culmination of some hard work by a few people, or a lot of people, to get us to where we are with regard to having those club room facilities, and then to have the partners around us. So we've partnered with a few local businesses, both our sponsors. So we've partnered with Gypsy Burger, who's a sponsor of ours, to run market stall type burger for some of the big events we have. We've got El Nido Cafe, which is a local supplier, which does a lot of our day-to-day food and drink. So those guys have been amazing. But the club room facilities to sort of have those Matildas matches on has been such a good vibe. And that's bled over to our regular nights. If we look at the Matilda nights versus our Thursday nights and Friday nights, which we're now doing regular food and dinners for, and other events we're having on, has been, the flow-on effect has been fantastic. So the Matilda effect's been extremely strong. And maybe back to the first part of that the second part really was how we harness sort of the inquiries. We've had the inquiries come through. People wanting to, start this, jump into a team straight away sort of thing, like expecting that sort of an option, which isn't really, but you love to the inquiry. But we've been quite, in the past, we've sort of regularly run the FV kickoff or kickstart programs. And this, that's something we're extremely likely to run in the next few weeks for us as well. Another FV kickoff program, which is aimed at those sort of first-year players, maybe second-year players, or maybe the very young players, to try and get them an exposure to football. And we'll sort of harness that again as well, likely going forward. And the inquiries have been fantastic, and we want to get those kids just kicking a ball. For us, the community element of our club is important as much as we might have, sort of talking about player pathways with the strategy we're working on now. We all know it starts from sort of the ground roots, and especially in a location like ours where we've got such a big, active community that want to play sport. So, lots for us to do.
Mate, that kickoff program is something I wanted to delve into a little bit more. That seems to me like the absolute perfect program for something in the off season for those kids wanting to try it, or as we talk about the massive level of support that's going to be shown by kids all over. How have you found setting it up, and what have been sort of maybe some of the not pros and cons, but positives and negatives of running it? Yeah. And what would be your advice to some of the fellow Geelong clubs here in Geelong looking at doing something similar in the upcoming off season?
Yeah, look, I guess my advice would be don't run it, send all your players down to Torquay. But apart from that, no, we've regularly done it. And I know there's only a couple of us that have regularly done it, but look, it's really worth the investment. The hard part of it is, if you're going to look at sort of pros and cons, I don't think it's a con, but the hard part is just getting the volunteers to go back to the well in sort of an off-season type scenario, or when they're really focused on regular season competition, the rigmarole of sort of training and game day sort of thing outside of a training program like this. So we've got a lot of passionate people around the club. Some of those are parents of kids involved, other ones that are ex-people involved in the club, and a lot of people happy to give their time up. A kickoff program like FV Run doesn't take a lot of expertise, as you would expect. Probably, the drills aren't complicated. It's really about passion. And so if you can get a few passionate people that love doing what they do, then, get them down to the grass level of sort of the kids, getting them to talk to them in their eyes, and the kids just love the involvement. So, Football Victoria is pushing the program. We like the support of it, as we can run it. And I think now that sort of, hopefully COVID's behind us, that it means that we can run these things really effectively. So that's something where we're likely to go again with. And other clubs definitely look at, sometimes we leave those sort of the non-competition children, the sort of the younger ones, to some of the partner programs that are out there. And that can help, but also, other times there's a capacity thing. There's only so many programs that run. There's more kids out there that want to be facilitated. So for us, it's an important part of our game, and it's an important part as a first step pathway into club football.
Yeah, excellent, mate. Thank you so much for that. Wishing you all the very, very best for the weekend, for the off season, and then certainly come with regards to all the preparation and planning for 2024. It's going to be a massive year. This was a big year, but next year I think all of the planning and the build up is going to just explode for next year. So I think we've got to strap ourselves in for what is going to be one massive, almighty 2024.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to it, and hopefully there's an exciting end of the season as well to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Good on you, Brett. Brett King, the president of Surf Coast Football Club, and the Coasters on and off the field. Some really, really good, positive things happening down at Banyule Warrior Reserve in Torquay North. If you haven't had a chance to pop down there and see the new facilities, do so over the next coming weeks while there is still some football happening, that's for sure. Folks, we're going to take a very short break. When we return, it's time for our second guest. He's the Romanian import at Hume Reserve for CORIO Soccer Club. He's made a big impact for the Eagles since his arrival mid-June. But this weekend, they've got a massive, massive game. And we're calling on all members of the football community here in Geelong, particularly those up in the northern suburbs, especially if your club's not involved in any football action this weekend. Come along to Hume Reserve on Saturday because CORIO Soccer Club will be coming up against Whittlesea United in a big relegation battle in State League One football. That's coming up shortly after this break, folks. Don't go away. You are tuning into the Game of Two Halves, powered by the Geelong Region Soccer Show.
Your future is in your hands. There is a whole world waiting for you, and your choices determine how you will impact it. At the Gordon, we recognise this. That's why we champion hands-on learning. Get your hands dirty. Grab what's in front of you. Learn by doing. Turn your passion, your ideas, and mould them into your creations. You'll be supported the entire way. You'll grow your skills in small classes, guided by teachers who are industry experts. You'll learn in state-of-the-art facilities or out in a real-world workplace setting. Your hands-on experience will increase your understanding and put you ahead of your university peers. You'll graduate work-ready and you'll graduate sooner, with a huge range of qualifications to choose from and support services to enable your success. Now is the time to continue your learning journey. At the Gordon, your future is in your hands.
Well, from State League 4 men's action, we turn our attention now, for a State League 4 club, we turn our attention now to a State League 1 club and CORIO Soccer Club. Big game coming up this weekend. CORIO hosting Whittlesea United, an important clash that is going to take place at Hume Reserve at 3 p.m. And to tell us all about that, CORIO's Romanian import, CASIAN ANGHEL. CASIAN, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Game of Two Halves. Oh, we haven't got him. We've lost him. We can see him, but we just can't hear him. We had these problems just before when we were testing it out, and everything ended up working really well. So maybe it's those headphones, the Bluetooth headphones. So we might need to just switch them off, and we'll try and sort that out. And hopefully we'll get him back on board. Hello, CASIAN. Can we hear you? We can see you. We just can't hear you. So we might have to get him to just switch those Bluetooth headphones if he can. Look, we're going to take a very short jingle break, and hopefully when we return, we'll have CASIAN on the line. Welcome back, and hopefully we've got, yes, we can hear CASIAN now. That's good. So it must be those Bluetooth headphones. They always seem to play a little bit of problems with the connection. Now there's a bit of an echo. So are you able to sort that out?
Let's see.
All right, we're there. Now it all we'll just have to pop you aside. It all went very, very well in the just before the show aired. Everything went well, and now it's just one of those problems. So we'll try one more time. We've got that echo happening. Yeah.
Is it still on?
It's still on. Yeah, I can still
Yeah. Oh, let's try with the headphones.
Let's try with the headphones and see if that will go. But how's that? Better? Oh, we've lost him now. This weekend, we'll bring up that ladder. So it's the last home game of the season, or the last game of the season. CORIO at the moment are out of the relegation zone, but we're hoping that they will jump and stay there. But it really comes down to the last game of the season, where it's against Whittlesea United at home. And CASIAN, can we hear you now? Hello? No, we can't hear you, unfortunately. No, unfortunately, we can't hear you. Well, earlier in the show, we talked about the young Matildas being selected, and that's the young Matildas selected for an August camp, which actually starts today. And it's great news to see that one of our Geelong girls, one of our Geelong born and bred girls, Natalie Pitchuk, who is with Calder United in the NPLW competition, playing there. She has been called in the 28-player squad. So that's fantastic news, and we wish Natalie all the very, very best. Now, CASIAN Anghel, Romanian import, he's played 10 matches this year for 3 goals at Hume Reserve. He made his debut on the 10th of June. Now, he's got a very, very interesting CV. He played in the 5th tier of the Spain Football League with Malaga City. And let's see if we can get him back on. How about now? Can we get you on?
Is it any better?
Yes, we've got you. Finally.
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Perfect.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you well.
Perfect.
Yeah.
No, that's good.
Oh,
CASIAN, great to have you on the show. Finally, it was worth the wait. Mate, I was just talking about your CV. You've got a very, very interesting, colourful CV. Now, you're obviously from Romania. You've come via Spain. You played in the 5th tier competition in Spain for Malaga City. Tell us, what was that experience like in Spain?
Look, just to tell a bit more about my journey, I started playing in Romania for Dinamo Bucharest, which is like one of the best academies out there. So I was there for like 10 years, and then I moved to UK, where I also studied football coaching and management in Manchester, and I played non-league. And then after I finished university, I had the opportunity to move over to Spain, and I was part of Leganés B as well, and Lorca, which is another big club, and Malaga City, which is a really good academy that is just trying to bring players from overseas to help them adapt into the European culture. So far, it's been great. It's been amazing for me to experience both English and Spanish football, because they are both really good, but like very different. They've got different approaches towards football. I think England is a lot more physical and direct, and Spanish is a lot more tactical, and literally every decision like you make when you play Spanish football is gotta be made with a reason.
Yeah. Now, CORIO, we've seen quite a few imports over the last few years come. It's become a real destination club for a lot of players from various countries, whether it be from Asia, whether it be from Europe, even from South America. But Nate, how you've obviously settled in quite well. 10 matches that you've played there. Tell us, how have you found Australian football at the lower league level, State League One?
I think I found it a bit easier to adapt than I expected, because I played some non-league football when I was in UK.
Mm-hmm.
My first impression was not as tactical aware. That was my first opinion on it. Like people don't dwell on tactics as much over here as like compared to other countries like Spain, but pretty physical, and sometimes you get like some players with good ability as well.
Yeah. Now, that tactical awareness, that's a really good point. If the clubs, let's say we're talking about the clubs in Geelong, if over the coming pre-season, the coaches, the clubs, the players spend a little bit more time on the tactics, Do you think that would put them in really, really good stead compared to some of the other opposition? Or is the physicality of the local game here override any tactical benefit?
Look, I think this tactical awareness is something that has to be developed through younger stages of a football career. I think it's hard to develop some of these abilities from a certain stage, because football is not a game that you can like, circumstances always change and there are always new situations, and maybe it's difficult to train these situations. But I do think, yes, working on tactics and shape and work and shape and stuff like that definitely would help with performances on the pitch. I feel like since Beaky came in, we focused a bit more on that, and things have been working well. Like obviously, apart from the game last weekend, where I feel like the scoreline didn't really reflect what happened on the pitch, but I don't think I should be speaking more about that game. So let's focus on the next one.
Let's focus on the next one. Whittlesea United. You haven't had an opportunity to play Whittlesea United before, but what's kind of, you had training. Did you have training tonight, by the way, or was that tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
So what's going to be the focus this week? What's going to be the kind of the plan of attack going forward with this weekend with regards to this game?
Well, I don't know what to expect. I'm not in charge of what the plan's gonna be, but I've got a lot of confidence in our staff. I've got a lot of confidence in our players that we've got what it takes to have a good result on the weekend. And I think it's all about approaching the game with the right mentality and working hard, and things can turn out really well for us. I think that's all.
Yeah, the last time CORIO met Whittlesea United, it wasn't a good result. It was at Gilwell Reserve or Gilwell Park Mosaic Reserve back in early June, just before you got there, and it was a 4-0 loss at the hands of Whittlesea United. A lot has changed since then, including I think it's 3 wins or 4 wins and a draw. So it's certainly a different team. It's going to be a very big game, obviously. As you said, we're not going to dwell on what happened on the weekend just gone by, but just focusing on this one. Are the boys pumped? Are the boys pumped to really, really do well this week?
Well, I'm excited to see them tomorrow. Definitely, they were a bit disappointed after the Saturday's result, but I think we've got a very good changing group. I think we've got a very good group here to be able to push through and be positive for the game on Saturday.
Yeah. Now, it's going to be a lot at stake. Not only is CORIO talking about staying in the State League 1 competition, but if CORIO does stay in State League 1, then there'll be a big derby next year against Geelong. And we haven't had a really big derby in recent years. CORIO did play Geelong Rangers in State 2 several years ago, but this will be something certainly to look forward to. Big crowd, a lot at stake, so that'll be something we'd definitely be looking forward to next year. Mate, wishing you all the very, very best. We've come to the end of the show. Thank you for joining us on such short notice too, by the way. We approached, I think it was about a half a dozen of the players there at CORIO, and they all had stage fright, but not you, CASIAN. You were willing to take one for the team and represent the team tonight, so we appreciate that.
Thank you for the invitation, and hopefully next week we're going to have some good news for the Geelong football.
Absolutely. That's 3 p.m. this Saturday afternoon at Hume Reserve. A massive, massive game, folks. Get down to Hume Reserve for the CORIO Whittlesea United clash. CASIAN, thank you very much. And by the way, plans for staying on in next year? Are you looking at staying at CORIO for next season?
Look, I've had a great time here so far. CORIO is a great club with great fans, great community. They all look after the players, especially the imports, I would say. Mm-hmm. I think there is a big break in between seasons, so I'm not really sure what I'm going to do during this time. But so far I've had a great experience, so I'll consider CORIO for next season. We'll see how things go until then.
Oh, it'll be fantastic to have you here and maybe utilise your football knowledge, because the College of Football Business that you did in was it football coaching and management that you did at UCFB in Manchester. That's certainly this region could use your knowledge and your brains and your experience, that's for sure.
Yes, it sounds great.
Good on you. Thank you. CASIAN ANGHEL, Romanian import for CORIO Soccer Club, is going to be involved in a massive, massive game this week. Sounds like all roads lead to Hume Reserve this coming weekend. But we're going to have, hopefully, your company again next Monday night. We will be able to finally draw the curtains on the State League season. We'll also be speaking to Ryan Opperman about the season that was for North Geelong in the State's Elite NPL Victoria Division and what the plans are in the off-season ahead of an assault on the NPL 2 Victoria title next year. We'll also be speaking to Dermot Tebb and Andrew Burgess from Futsal Ballarat, who run the Futsal Geelong competitions as well. They are gearing up for a massive, massive futsal season, which will be kicking off in just a few weeks' time, no doubt. Folks, thank you for being a part of tonight's show. Really appreciate your company as we do week in, week out. And until then, have a great week, and we'll see you next Monday night. Bye-bye.